Hello there, everybody. Sean Sheehan back here with another edition of the Sheehan Show for Sherdog.com. And you know what? It's something a little bit different today because I am looking ahead to 2022 and I'm going to make a couple of predictions for who will be the champion at this stage next year. I'm going to go through every division. I'm going to look who the champions are now and maybe what I think will happen at this time next year. Now, this is a bit of fun. This is just maybe throwing a few wild things out there. It might not all be correct. It might not all be 100% accurate. But let's do it. Let's have some fun. I've been doing this thing for the last, I think, 7 years. Or I do my bold predictions, my 20 bold predictions, that are very bold at times. I think I got 7 right last year, so that's probably my best year ever. Some people would argue 5, some people would argue 7, never mind. But this year, for this episode, I'm going to look at the champions and I'm going to look at maybe how things will adjust because in 2021, you would know what year it is these times, there was a lot of changes, a lot of new champions, a lot of movement at the very top of the division, and it'll be interesting to see if we have a similar sort of thing this year because, I'll just pull these off as I keep going, I don't need them. Could we see some of those champions coming back winning their titles? There's been people like John Jones who've been away for a long time. Can he come back to one of the divisions and win his championship? So that's something I will come here and talk about. So let's start, and we'll start from the bottom, work our way up, and let's start at Flyweight with Brandon Moreno, who is the current champion. He's obviously fighting Davidson Figueiredo in the next. Not too long. I think only a couple of weeks away, or a couple of months away, depending when depending when you're listening to this. So that's a very interesting fight. Obviously, you know, we had the was it a draw the first fight, and obviously Moreno won the last one. So that's one that could be a candidate for the old champion coming back and winning that belt. If you look at some of the contenders, you have sometimes when there's a dominant champion like a GSP back in the day. Let's say GSP loses, he's more than likely getting a rematch. It's more than likely going to be like 6 months down the line. So you might only get 2 people as an option here for who will be champion at this time next year. You know, a division like Flyweight, I think you have way more than that because obviously this is their 3rd fight. Win or lose, I think it's probably unlikely that they do a 4th fight, although you'd never know in the world of mixed martial arts. Maybe they will. But I think some of these other contenders might and probably will get a chance to fight for the title this year. So the number one I would look at there is Askar Askarov, and just looking at the rankings, Pantoja, Perez, Rival, Kai Kara France after his great win against Cody Garbrandt are all contenders here. The one I go for, and here's my prediction, I'm going for Askar Askarov. I think he'll be champion at this time next year. I think he's very well rounded. I think if they didn't do this rematch, he would have been the guy getting that fight. I think his wrestling is so good. He's fast. His striking is brilliant. I think he could be the guy. Especially if it's Moreno. I think if Moreno wins that fight, I think Askarov will win against Moreno. I think it'll be a tougher matchup if it's Figueiredo, but also I don't know if Figueiredo will stick around at 125 or if he will even make weight for that fight against Brandon Moreno. So that's one to talk about. But there you go. I'm going to go with Askar Askarov this time next year. Let's see whatever date this comes out. Someone put a reminder on their phone for me to look at it this time next year, see how right or wrong I am. Right, 135. And actually, after 135, I will go and do all the women's divisions, and then I'll come back to this because I probably should have started with 115 if we're going by weight. But anyway, we'll do it that way. So Aljamain Sterling and Peter Yan are both champions at the moment. Obviously Yan is the interim champion. Sterling is the undisputed, I suppose, is an odd thing to call him as a champion. But anyway, looks like they're going to fight at some stage, maybe in the middle part of the first quarter, hopefully. TJ Dillashaw seems to be the guy in waiting after that, even though he kind of was injured, but I think he'll be coming back maybe with good timing for that one. Then you have Aldo, who I think is probably unlikely to get a shot, especially if Yan wins against Sterling. But if you keep winning against guys like Font, you'll make yourself undeniable pretty soon. But I find it hard to see Aldo getting a shot. Sandhagen has lost a couple now. I don't think he'll be getting a shot this year. Font just lost Aldo. Dashvili is a kind of a coming guy. Cruz on his way back up, but I don't think so. Vera Could be, but I don't think so. And Sean O'Malley, I suppose, is the dark horse down that division there. You won't see Frankie Edgar or Munoz getting up there, or definitely not Asun. So those are kind of the challengers there at 135. I don't think any of those challengers will beat Petr Yan. I think he will hold the title at this time next year. He's holding one title now, but this time next year, I think he'll beat Sterling. I think his next challenger will probably be Dillashaw. I think that's a very, very bad fight to come from a bad injury like Dillashaw had and to return back immediately to fight. I think Yan will win that, and I think he'll probably have someone else. Could be a Dashvili towards the end of the year, maybe. Could be an Aldo or something like that. Maybe a rematch if Aldo forces his way. And I think Yan will win those as well. So, yeah, that's my prediction for 135. This time next year, Petr Yan will be the champion. Okay, let's talk about the women's divisions. Let's start at 115. So, it's hard to know at 115 who's going to fight Rose Namajunas. Is this going to be Carla Esparza? She kind of earned her way there, and I think it probably should be that. Rose has even said that herself. She thinks it should be that. The other people kind of coming up in the division. Obviously, you can't rule out Zhang Weili. If she wins 2 fights or even 1 fight, she'll probably be back in that mix again. Marina Rodriguez, Yan Zhaonan, Mackenzie Dern, Nina Nunes, Claudia Gadelha in the rankings here, but she has retired now. And then after that, Lemos, I thought looked good against Angela Hill in that close fight. I thought Angela Hill looked very good as well, but I don't know. I find it hard to see anyone separating themselves from the back. I think Kibas is a very, very good fighter, and look, she's lost recently, but if she can put it all together, she reminds me a little bit, and this is a bit too much, but when you saw Amanda Nunes coming up, you knew she was going to be great. I feel like you look at Amanda Hebas at times and you think, okay, she could be great. Now, some people never reach that, but I think she could be one of those. And if she keeps improving, I could see her fighting for a title. I could say the same about Limas. I think she's good, but this is probably the toughest one to choose. I do think Namajunas will fight Esparza, and I think Namajunas will win that. And I find it hard to see a Rodriguez or a Zhaonan, if one of the two of them are next. Find it hard to see them beating Namajunas. So I'm going to stick with Namajunas. It's kind of no fun to stick with the champion in some of these divisions, but I got to do it. I got to stick with Namajunas and think she's going to be the champion at this stage next year. Now, women's flyweight, I don't think there's any great surprise here. I'm sticking with Valentina Shevchenko to still be champion. Now, having said that, don't rule out a loss, right? If we ruled out a loss this time last year for Amanda Nunes, look how stupid we look. If we ruled out a loss for whoever it might be, everyone loses in MMA, right? There's someone coming. There's some very, very good people. Casey O'Neill there, number 15. That's the one that stands out to me. She could be it. Could it be Mano Firo or Macy Barber or Andrea Lee? Andrea Lee has improved an awful amount over the last couple of years. I think she's a fantastic fighter. I don't think it will be. I don't think it will be, but someone will. Someone will come along at some stage. It might be next year, it might be the year after, but it will be soon. And soon, I don't know when soon is, but it will happen. Valentina Shevchenko will be beaten at 125, and someone is coming. I don't think it'll be in the next year, so I'm sticking with Shevchenko to be champion at this time next year. And this is the other interesting one. Okay, there's 2 more divisions left, we should say. Women's Bantamweight, Juliana Pena is the champion now, and it looks like she's going to rematch against Amanda Nunes. I think Amanda Nunes will win that fight. I think she will win it. I think she will recapture the title. And I don't think anyone else at 135 will beat her anytime soon. If she can recapture what she used to be. Now, if she doesn't, I think it'll be an issue. And I think there are plenty of women there who can beat her, like Holly Holm or Jermaine Durandamy or whoever it might be. If Pena can do it, it will give the backing for those other women to do it, and they very possibly could if she's not what she once was. But if she does come back and manages to beat Pena and manages to look good in that fight and subsequent fights, I think she'll take beating. So I think Amanda Nunes will be champion this time next year. Women's Bantamweight. Women's Featherweight. Amanda Nunes is the current champion. I think Kayla Harrison will be the champion at this time next year at Women's Featherweight. I think she's got a side. I might be wrong. Maybe by the time this comes out, she'll have side back for PFL or side with Bellator or something like that. But who knows? This is my prediction at this time, recorded towards Christmas time. So maybe everything has changed in the world by the time this comes out. But I'm going to go with Kayla Harrison. And I don't necessarily think Kayla Harrison will come in and beat Amanda Nunes. Like, could Amanda Nunes do a bit of a pit bull? You know, Patricio. He loses one title, then gives up the other one. I could see that happening, especially the fact that Kayla Harrison is her teammate. I could see that happening. And Kayla wins that belt maybe, then defends it against Nunes. You know, I could see something like that happen. So I'm going to go with Kayla. And even if they do fight, I'll pick Kayla Harrison anyway. So no, I'm giving myself no backing out here. I'm giving my prediction. And Kayla Harrison is my prediction for 145-pound women next year. 145-pound men, this is an interesting one because you have so many really, really good guys here. Volkanovski, the champion at the moment. Looks like Max Holloway is going to get that third fight, even though he's lost the first two. Obviously Ortega, I don't think he'll be getting a shot this year. Yair, okay, he lost to Max, but he looked good in that, and he's a guy you wouldn't rule out in the future without a shadow of a doubt, especially if he can get a couple of wins, if he can stay fit, you know. Calvin Kattar's fighting Giga Chikadze, I believe, pretty soon. If Chikadze wins that fight, he'll probably be in a title shot this year. Arnold Allen, I think, is really, really good. I think he'll be getting a title shot this year as well. Well, I wouldn't necessarily, maybe I'm wrong, but one of them will be. Maybe they end up fighting at some stage during the year. And you've the likes of Movsar Avlavev as well. I butchered that name. I'm not going to try to get coming through. And there are so many tough contenders. This, looking through them before I started, this was probably the toughest one for me. Okay. Right, I'm going to go bold. I'm going to say Giga Chikadze is the champion this time next year. Now, that's a one that'll either look like a genius or look like a fool. But I'm going to go Chikadze. I think he's very good. I think he's well-rounded. I think he's powerful. I think he'll cause problems to a lot of lads at the top of the division. And he could be the incumbent. He could be the next guy. Volkanovski, very good. A very, very, very hard guy to beat. But, yeah, look, I've decided now I'm going to... I gotta go for it, and I gotta go for Giga Chikadze to win it. Now, lightweight, anything could happen here, lads. Lightweight, Charles Oliveira is the champion at the moment. Obviously, just beat Dustin Poirier. Looks like he's going to fight Justin Gaethje next. Now, I actually have a podcast. I don't know if it's out already or coming out, but on the lightweight picture. So maybe we leave the whole chat for that. But maybe a brief look at it here. If Oliveira does fight Gaethje, I think Oliveira wins that. But Oliveira, I also think, is a guy who will want to stay active. I think Oliveira will have at least 3 fights next year. I think he'll fight Gaethje. I think he'll fight the winner of Dariush versus Makhachev. Now, this is obviously pinning on wins. Let's just go with me for a second. So I think Makhachev will win that fight against Dariush. So I think it'll be Oliveira versus Makhachev. If he can get through that, that's the interesting one, who it is next. Because if Conor McGregor comes back around that time, let's say McGregor versus Ferguson happens, or let's say McGregor wins a fight, doesn't matter who he fights. If McGregor wins one fight, people will be talking about him fighting Oliveira. And do you know who will be talking about him fighting Oliveira? Oliveira will be talking about him fighting Oliveira, because he knows that red panty night is there, and he will absolutely want that. And do you know what? You couldn't blame him for it. He's fought the who's who in the lightweight division in the last couple of years, beating them all, and he deserves a big, big payday, especially if he wins probably 2 fights to get to that, or maybe 1. But having said that, that's not about this. That's not about breaking down the picture. It's about who will be champion at this stage next year. And as much as I want to go full Irish here and go, Conor McGregor, I'm only joking. I won't do that. Look, I do think Oliveira, we'll go through this step by step. I do think Oliveira will beat Gaethje handily enough. You never know. Well, handily enough is, no one beats Gaethje handily enough unless you're Habib and it gets to the ground. And that's why I think, and that's why I said those words. But I think he will beat Makhachev as well, honestly. I know a lot of people think Makhachev is kind of the boogeyman in that division and that he's going to beat everyone, but I would fancy Oliveira in that one. And, you know, whether who's the next fight going to be? Maybe it's going to be McGregor. You probably at this stage you fancy Oliveira as well to win that one. So I'm going to stick with Oliveira. You know, he's maybe not a champion that everyone would have predicted, maybe this time last year or the year before that, but he's looking pretty unflappable right now. But lots of tough fights. Lightweight division is one of those as well, where he's 10 fights in a row now with 10 wins in a row. That doesn't last forever, believe me. Ask Tony Ferguson, ask anyone, apart from Habib, who went away and retired before he could lose, honestly. So it won't last just because it can't, just because the talent. Those names I mentioned there, and I haven't even mentioned the likes of Fazayev or Riddell or any of them. It just, the names at that division are crazy. They're so good, and Oliveira will end up losing at some stage, but I don't know. I'll go with him. I'll stick with him. Right, welterweight. There's two options here. Well, let's go with three options: Edwards, Usman, Chimaev. If I was to rank them, I would put Edwards number 3. I don't think he'll be the champion. Usman is the champion now, but I'm going to go with Khamzat Chimaev. I think he's the truth. I think he is the answer. I think he is the next welterweight king. I think he's going to pick up Usman. He's going to lift him up. He's going to put him on his backside, and he's going to win that fight. And by God, that's a fight I want to see. Like, oh my God. Oh my, that's just a fight that, if that fight doesn't excite you as an MMA fan, no fight will excite you as an MMA fan, because Usman, let me just look here, if I'm pretty sure, yes, he's a pound for pound number 1 fighter in the world right now. And lots of people would pick this guy with 4 UFC fights, or is it 4 or 5? 4 UFC fights to beat him. That is crazy. Isn't that crazy? But imagine if he did. That would be a gargantuan sport-changing moment and a star-making moment that would change this sport like McGregor maybe changed the sport. I don't think he'll go that far, and I don't think he'll do what McGregor did, but it would be a massive, massive, massive moment in this year of sport, in this decade of the sport. It would be absolutely huge. Now, Usman is no easy out, don't get me wrong, and I might change my tune by the time if that fight is actually made, and I might very well be picking Usman, but I don't know. I'm choo-choo, I'm on the Chimaev train as we speak, and I just think he is so good. Look, I wouldn't rule out guys like Sean Brady either. I'd love to see Brady versus Chimaev. I think that's a fantastic fight. You can never rule out Gilbert Burns, especially if Chimaev wins the belt and then fights Burns. Burns is a tough matchup for anyone in that division. Don't get that twisted. Vicente Luque is on a fantastic run at the moment. Unfortunately, Wonderboy is not there. Bilal Muhammad's on a run as well. I think Bilal probably end up getting a couple of big fights this year as well. And Colby, you can't rule out Colby, especially if Usman. Let's say if Chimaev does beat Usman. Colby versus Usman, what a fight that is. That's almost as exciting as Usman versus Chimaev. So, and Leon Edwards as well, I have to give him his respect. Look, the problem with Leon Edwards is I don't think he beat Chimaev, I don't think he beat Edwards, I don't think he beat Covington, I don't think he beat Burns. And that's a big issue there. He deserves it. I think it was like Tony Ferguson back in the day. I didn't think he could beat Eddie Alvarez, not Eddie Alvarez. I didn't think he could beat McGregor. I didn't think he could beat Habib. And it's very hard for me to think of him as like, the guy, when I think there are other guys in front of him who are better in my mind. So maybe people disagree with that, and I'm sure lots of people will be in the comment section disagree. But anyway, let's move to middleweight. Israel Adesanya is fighting Robert Whittaker coming up very soon, and I don't know why, but I have a sneaky feeling Whittaker will win that fight. I just think. And like I was doing another podcast just before this one, and I was talking about it or doing something with that fight, and I kind of talked myself out of my opinion that Whittaker would win, but now I'm thinking about it again. I'm talking myself back in. I think it's going to be a closer fight than obviously it'll be a closer fight than the first one, but it's a closer fight than maybe people think. I think Whittaker, look, what Adesanya is. What he has a problem with, as we saw in the Blachowicz fight, is a very, very technically good fighter with a very, very good game plan. Now, I don't think Robert Whittaker is like the technical fighter that Blachowicz is. I think he's a very good fighter. He can fight well technically, but he's more of a pace, endurance, pressure type of fighter with everything else after it. I think if you can do that, but game plan the right way, to where you can hit Adesanya at the right time, and not just hit him, I mean hit him with takedowns and hit him with the right shot at the right time, or the right attack at the right time, I suppose is the way to do it. I think Whittaker can win that fight. Will he win the fight though? I don't know. It's one of those ones. I don't think a lot of people are I'm after burning myself here on the radiator, sorry. I don't think a lot of people are 50-50 on that fight, but I certainly am. I think it's going to be a very, very close fight. And as well, the problem with the rest of that division is it's rubbish. It's rubbish. There's nothing coming. Vittori's not winning that belt. Cannonier, maybe. I wouldn't call him Cannonier rubbish. Brunson, I wouldn't call him rubbish either. He's good. Costa, not winning that belt. Hermanson. Who's Hermanson fighting? Hermanson's fighting someone good. Isn't he? Strickland? I don't think Strickland's winning it. Till definitely not winning it. Hall's not winning it. Gaslam's not winning it. Tavares not winning it. Imavov on his way up. He's good. He could win it in the future, I think. Weidman and Holland, certainly not. And Muniz, all praise to Muniz. Very, very good fighter. Has submitted two very good people in the next while. But it'll either be Adesanya or Whitaker. It'll be one of them. Who am I going to go for? I don't know. I'm going to go for Adesanya. I just think you need to be a little bit more technical than Robert Whitaker to beat Adesanya. I think he could beat him with the pressure and all of that, but I don't know. I'm going to go for Adesanya. Right, light heavyweight. This is another one that is, tough. Blachowicz is fighting Rakic coming up. Obviously, the champ Glover Teixeira looks like he's fighting Prochazka. I think Prochazka will win that, honestly. As much respect as I have for Glover Teixeira. I think Prochazka versus Blachowicz. If Blachowicz wins that fight, it'll be very, very interesting. I think Rakic and Blachowicz will be... I'm not sure if it's a main event, if it's 5 rounds or 3 rounds. I don't think it's going to be a classic. I'll put it to you that way. I think it's going to be a very, very technical, slow fight. And Rakic has won those fights recently. But I think against Blachowicz, I don't think he will. I think Blachowicz will win that fight when that happens. So Blachowicz is putting himself right back in there. Will he get a title shot straight away after just losing it? He's not exactly like the sexiest champion in UFC history that they want to put him right back in there. But maybe. Then you have like Anthony Smith's been on a great run. Thiago Santos. Ankalaev is the dark horse. People love talking about Ankalaev. Jamal Hill. Right, here we go. Here's Shawnee taking a shot in the dark. Jamal Hill is my answer here. Jamal Hill is going to be champion this time next year. He's going to get a big win. He's going to beat Ankalaev or beat Smith or someone like that. He'll get a big fight against someone towards the top of the division, and then he'll get a title shot towards the end of the year. I think Jamal Hill is one of the best prospects in the world in mixed martial arts. I honestly do. I think he's brilliant. He lost to Paul Craig. Okay, he got his arm snapped. It can happen to anyone. He got caught. But I think he is fantastic. I really do. I rate him massively. Him versus Prochazka is a dream fight for me. But, I don't know who wins that one. But maybe Prochazka should be the answer here. But I'm going all out. We said we're going to have fun. I started this off. I said I'm going to have fun. Let's have some fun, Jack. Jamal Hill champion this time next year. Right, heavyweight. We'll finish it out here. The champion at the moment, well, there's 2 champions at the moment, Francis Ngannou and Cyril Gagne. Stipe Miocic is still there or thereabouts. And the other voice we have to mention when we mention these lads is John Jones. What's John Jones going to do? I probably should have mentioned him in light heavyweight as well. Is he going to come back at light heavyweight? If he does, he'll probably be John Jones who'll be the champion next year. Let's be honest. But it looks like he's going to come back at heavyweight. It looks like he's going to fight the champion at heavyweight. So that's very interesting. So who's that champion going to be? Let's do it this way. I think it'll be Cyril Gagne. I feel like Gagne will win it. Although I watched a few Ngannou fights yesterday, and I'm like, well, maybe not. Hold on, actually. I think Gagne will beat Ngannou. And I think Gagne will beat Jones. And after that, who's next? Lewis, Blades, Volkov, Rosenstruck. It's someone else is going to appear out of that division, whether it's Aspinall, whether it's Tuivasa. Not Dawkins after the last weekend anyway. But maybe he can come back. We never rule anyone out in heavyweight. But Cyril Gagne. My answer here is Cyril Gagne. He's the interim champion at the moment. I think he will be the undisputed heavyweight champion at the end of 2022. Right? That's it. That's all my predictions. I would go back and tell you who I predicted in each division quickly, but I probably forget and I probably tell you some wrong ones. So hopefully maybe John can keep a list of them, put them up here at the end. There you go. Here are my champions for 2022 in the UFC. But yeah, let me know yours in the comment section. Let me know, reply on Twitter. Let me know who your champions would be. Let's make a list and let's see who's right at the end of next year. And we'll all have the bragging rights then. So I leave it at that. My name is Sheehan for Sherdog.com, and I'll see you all next time.